Are we living in the Matrix? Is the universe just one big simulation? What if everything we thought we knew was nothing more than virtual reality? Ponder the answers to these questions and more on Glitch in the Matrix with me, Doug Rizzio, and my next guests, Maggs Rose Quartz Chaos, aka Madhouse, and Dorothy Khaos. Hi.
Hey,
Hey.
So this is going to be an interesting show because the two of you actually know each other outside of the stream, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome.
I mean, we never met, but we talk a lot.
We met online. We're online friends, but yeah,
Yeah.
we became really close. Like, what was it, over winter?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
Gotcha. That's like the tale of millennials and Generation Z these days. I feel like half of my friends I've never even met before.
oh yeah, for sure. I have a lot
Yeah,
of online
same.
friends. Yeah, it's cool.
So I'm gonna roll right into the interview and start with Madhouse. So, where does your name come from? Where are you from? And who are you as an artist?
So the name's weird. Like, so it's
You've got
actually
two
kind
of
of
them.
fun. Huh?
I'm sorry, you've got two of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, so what, two names?
Well, Maggs Rose Quartz Chaos is one of them.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that one, that's like my like preferred name. It's like not my birth name, but it's my preferred name. My birth middle name is Rose, and I really love like crystals and gemstones. And I was like, oh, and like I love rose quartz because it's just like pretty and pink and like it just like feels like a hug. So I was like, oh, I'll just like rose quartz. And then chaos, like because I love chaos magic and my birth last name starts with a C, and I was like, oh, this just feels right. So, and as far as Madhouse, that was kind of an interesting story. I'm a hairstylist professionally, and my client was texting their husband and was like, oh, I'm seeing Mags, but their phone autocorrected to Madhouse. And like she showed me that, and I was like, yes, that feels right. Cause I was wanting to like pick a new artist name because my old one just didn't like quite feel right anymore. And I was like, yeah, Madhouse is cool because it has like kind of like, I don't know, whenever I think of like Madhouse, I kind of have like this like fun like association with it, like, oh my God, it was a madhouse. Like it was crazy and it was fun and exciting and unpredictable. And I was like, yeah, I like that. So that's where that comes from.
Nice. If you don't mind me asking, what was your other name before Madhouse?
It was Damien Chaotica.
Hmm.
It was a different like phase of like my art and also like just my magic practice in general. Like that's kind of like my old self. And like, I don't know, I think that there's power in changing your name as you grow and adapt. Like you kind of take on like a new form and evolve. And I think a name change can come with that. So
Yeah, definitely. And did both of you actually use pseudonyms, right? Relevant to chaos magic?
Sort of. Actually, my uh, like I have a few artist names. My previous name was Dorothy Waste, and Dorothy Chaos came from a very similar story that it sounds almost like my surname, but I just wanted to transform into like an artist that works more from like this chaotic energy than like concepts and whatever.
And that's the subject of chaos magic and what that means for the Matrix is something we'll definitely talk about a little later. But back to Madhouse, I'm curious, how did you become an artist in the first place?
like I first like want to say like I think it's like a very human thing to create art. I think like all of us are artists in one way or another. I mean, like, cause I was like thinking back, like I started creating like as soon as I could hold things in my hands. Like whether I was like coloring or drawing or like making something, like building something. Like I remember like fucking sorry, making like
No, it's
potions
a, you can
like
say
in my
whatever you
room.
want.
Okay, I can swear. Okay. I remember like being like a little kid, like making potions in my room and like just like doing like weird creative things. And like I think I've always been an artist. And I think all of us are in one way or another. We just haven't like I think some people just haven't found their craft yet.
Hmm. So for you, how did that craft first manifest? I'm assuming you didn't jump into glitch art from the moment you were born.
No, I was more into drawing. I really liked drawing with pretty much anything, pencils, markers. And then I took some art classes when I was in school, like did you hear the train?
Was that from you?
Yeah, we live like right by a train track. Okay.
It's
I didn't
nice
know it like
ambiance.
picked up on audio, yeah. But no, I mean there it is again. Uh, yeah, I took some like art classes in school and just kind of have always dabbled in it in one way or another. Like tried painting, took some photography classes. I use in my glitch art. A lot of the photos are like a lot of the base photos are photos that I've taken. I actually have a few that I am showcasing on our podcast today that like Dorothy gave me that I edited, and
Oh.
so yeah, I just took some photography in high school, and then yeah, just have kind of used like pretty much whatever I could get my hands on. I mean, I like making things with my hands too, like uh, not quite like sculpture stuff, but I like to do like mixed media collages, like on canvas, and I do all sorts of stuff, like not just glitch art.
So when was the first time that you ever started experimenting with digital manipulation and glitch art in general?
It was probably a few years ago. I had seen some art, I think like on Facebook or something, and I was like, hey, that's cool. Or like maybe I saw it in like a chaos magic document that I like was inspired by, and I was like, that looks cool. Like I wonder if I could recreate that. And I just downloaded some photo editing apps on my phone and just started like playing around and like figuring them out and like playing with like layering photos on top of each other and like text and adding different effects and stuff like that, and just kind of experimented until I found my like I guess style, which has changed and evolved a lot since then. I've figured out better apps to use and different techniques and stuff. So
Would you say that glitch art is your primary medium right now?
I would say yeah, for the most part. I have been doing more physical media with like canvas and painting and stuff, but yeah, I make a lot of my art when I fidget because I like it's hard for me to sit still and like just like focus. So I'll just kind of like screw around and on my phone and just make art. But yeah, I'd say it's probably my primary source of art right now.
So, what can you tell me about your work in particular that might stand out from not just other artists, but even other glitch artists out there?
I noticed that there's not a lot of glitch artists who like marry both magic concepts and art. So I think that kind of sets me apart. Um, I I try to hide like little Easter eggs in my art for people to find. Like I don't know if like either of you like looking at my stuff have ever seen it or like if anything like stands out, but like I'll like hide like a little sigil in the background, or like sometimes I'll hide like phrases of text in like blades of grass, or like I try to like incorporate something surprising in each piece that like it's like something a little bit unexpected in one way or another.
So you would say that your art is not just a combination of um, art and technology, but art, technology, and a little bit of magic too, right?
Yeah, every piece that I do is actually a spell. So that's like my like primary source of like form of craft. Like when I'm doing magic, it's like each piece of art is a piece of magic that I'm making. So it has
Mm.
an intention behind it, and the like idea is that by like not only me creating it, I'm putting like my energy into it, but other people viewing it and thinking about it and looking at it like they're putting energy into it as well, which like helps it kind of build and manifest.
So I'm sure that everyone watching or listening here has already heard of magic in general before, but maybe not everyone has heard of the concept of chaos magic. And it's not something that I was very familiar with either before talking to you a little bit about it. And I'm still not, I still feel like I wouldn't be equipped to tell another person the definition of it. So would you be able to describe what it is, how you got into it, and what it means for you and your artwork?
Yeah, so the way that I like to describe chaos magic is it's magic stripped away of any sort of dogma or belief system. And any belief system that you adopt is one that's chosen. So it's basically like more of like, I use this term loosely, but kind of more of like a scientific approach to magic where it's more results based. And it's, you use these methods as a means to an end. You're not really attached to the methods. Whereas like with, like ritual magic or, some of the more like traditional practices, they have like a lot of like ceremony and emphasis on like things going a particular way, and you have to do things a particular way in order for things to work. It's like with chaos magic, it's just like you devise your method your way. And if it works, then you're doing it right. And if it doesn't work, then you can switch it.
So can you give me examples of maybe like what kind of intention or outcome you'd expect from like an artwork or a spell, as you call it?
So I do the main form of my practice is what's called like psychonautics. So it's delving into the psyche and mental reprogramming. So when I am creating a piece, I'm usually trying to transform an aspect of myself or my life. And so I'll embed it with what are called sigils, which are like symbols. Like I have them tattooed on my arms. And they're symbols that have meaning to them in some way or another. So when I'm building that, I'm having this intention of like, okay, I want to shift this aspect in my life or like this aspect of myself. And I'm putting in this energy and doing that. And then when I post it, other people see it. And then it's like, it's kind of has that other accountability component to it as well. Cause it's like, I made this, I shared it with other people. Like I'm serious about this. I want to change this. So I don't know if that makes sense, like how I'm describing that, but
Yeah, I think so. I think there's an interesting quality that it takes on being on the internet, which is, it's this high tech technology that we all use, but it's a sort of liminal space that exists between worlds in a way that to me almost feels like a kind of magic in its own right.
for sure.
Even though we know how it works, if you showed it to someone living 1,000 years ago, it would undeniably be a form of magic to them. So
Definitely.
one thing I'm kind of curious about is what do you think is the mechanism of action for those results? Like once it's out in the world, how does it shape reality and what you want from it? Is it something that's explainable?
That's kind of an interesting question because like I think there's a multifaceted answer. First of all, like I agree with you. Like I think the internet is kind of a hotbed of energy. A lot of information is shared back and forth. So like that's why it's kind of become like my chosen method for like where I showcase my pieces. Because I think that it is like a resource, like an energetic resource. And as far as like where those results come from, I always kind of trace everything back to the self, like any results that happen are like things that like I brought, and like we'll talk later about like matrix stuff because like I think like any sort of matrix or whatever, like even starts with the self. So any sort of ripple effect in reality like starts from you and like your actions, your thoughts, your intentions. And just any form of magic or whatever, like prayer or even like meditation, is just kind of an expression of like these internal processes that are happening because we decided we wanted them to.
Well, I definitely want to talk more about this in the next segment, but I want to move on right now and ask you, what other projects are you working on besides the ones that we're about to see in the music video? You know,
So
what's in the future for you?
So right now I'm actually I do yoga as well, and I've reconnected with my yoga practice, and I've started studying yoga philosophy. So I'm making some art pieces based on yoga concepts, the 8 limbs of yoga. So that's going to be a pretty lofty project. And then I'm hoping to, once the weather gets a little warmer here where we live, like I'm wanting to do maybe some like performance art, like street performance, as well as like maybe like a few live shock pieces. Like I've always been like really into like, shock piece art. Like I just think it's cool because I think that any art that evokes any form of emotional reaction like is powerful. And if I could kind of mix that with magic in some way, I think that would be really sick. So those are kind of my goals right now.
What would you classify as shock art? I'm really curious. I
I
don't
don't
know.
want
I
to
don't
tell
know.
you. I don't want to tell you my
I, gue-
ideas because then
I
like
guess that
it
would
won't be
remove
to
the
shock
shock,
you.
right?
You'll just have to follow me and like watch what I'm up to.
All right. That is a great segue into my final question for this segment, which is, where can people find you online?
Instagram. My tag is a macaroni and chaos. So kind of a mix of my Italian culture and also chaos magic.
Ah, yes, Italian.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for that. I'm gonna shift to Dorothy Chaos now, and just ask you a shorter version of some of the same questions.
Right.
So you already told me where your name comes from, but where are you from, and who are you as a musician?
But I'm from Budapest, Hungary, and as a musician, I'm actually right now in a transitioning state because I used to have an alter ego called Dorothy Waste, it started out as a witch house project, which evolved into more noise and industrial stuff, but it was very much vocals and just expressions of myself and like just trying to deal with the experiences that I went through in my life. But right now, I changed my name, as I said, to Dorothy Chaos, and my band name to Meet Me After Sundown. And right now, I'm making more of just music from feeling and from a more, in a sense, like chaotic perspective, that if I feel something happening, then I make something. And also the name Meet Me After Sundown means that kind of, the people who stick around when you're down. And yeah.
So, what can you tell me more about your work and what chaos magic means to you? Because I'm curious to hear your perspective. I'm sure you have a number.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. As I said, I started out as a witch house project. And so for my first few EPs were basically CJs, just in a very similar way as Max described it, like that I just wanted to change something in myself or in the world, and then I kind of distilled that intention into music. But that changed over the time, and then I just got more like expressionist, I guess. But other than that, chaos magic for me means almost exactly again as Max described it, that it's just a way to achieve things, and then it does not matter how you achieve it, but the outcome is what matters. And I can't really add much to that, honestly, because Max described it pretty well.
That's okay.
I agree with that a lot. And also, it means for me that I'm a very impulsive person, and so I don't really do ritual magic, for example. But then I would have like a feeling of an energy burst or something, and then I would focus that on something, and then an outcome would happen, and then I can say that that thing worked. So yeah, and that's the same with music. That what I was trying to do, that to just distill this thing, this like energy burst into an art piece, and then just release it to the world, and then something would happen that I wanted to happen.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. Now, you
Of
said that
course.
you, or Mags actually said that you actually provided some of the photos that she turned into glitch art, right?
Yeah,
That's really cool. I
yeah,
didn't know that before doing this. So even beyond just showing your Mag's artwork and your music, it was even more collaborative behind the scenes.
yeah. In some ways, like they definitely gave life to the photos that I provided. Like, because I would just take a picture of the moon or something, and then Max would make a picture of it that would literally radiate chaotic energy from it, or like a road to home from Amsterdam to Budapest to Berlin, which has like a lot of hidden stuff in it, and these Easter eggs that you told about. And yeah, I just honestly I'm a fan of Mac's work as well because of these things.
Huh.
Thank
So
you.
do the two of you collaborate often?
Often, I don't know, like when it's very chaotic actually. Like
I
literally,
guess
like
that's the theme of the show.
whenever something I just have something, and then I just have this feeling like, okay, I'm gonna send this to Max, and then Max is gonna have a feeling and make something out of it, and it's just, yeah, it's nothing like, okay, so I think about something to make a picture of, and then it's just a very not grounded kind of workflow. I think that's a way to say it.
Can I interject for a second? Because
Sure.
Yeah,
like
sure.
before I knew Dorothy was going to be on this podcast, I had already chosen those images.
Oh wow, that is
Yeah,
really
Nice.
like
cool.
I was just like,
Thank
I like,
you.
and because like I don't know, like I just wanted to share like that because I liked that. I like that weird exchange where like we both kind of have this like feeling of like this needs to happen, and like we made like that is chaos magic. Like when you ask like what is chaos magic, it's literally just that. Like you have a feeling of like
Exactly.
you feel like this needs to happen, so you do it, and then like something cool happens as a result of it.
That's really cool. I really like that cosmic coincidence that happened without even trying. All right, so Dorothy, where can people find you online, and how can they contact you directly if you
Oh
want to be
well,
contacted?
it's like they can find my old project Dirty Waste on Spotify and everywhere online. My current project Meet Me After Sundown is on Bandcamp at the moment, and my main where I put my stuff out is Instagram as well, and that's like at Dorothy Chaos with a KH almost. So, but if you search "Meet Me After Sundown," you can probably find me.
Awesome, and they can find all of those links in all of the media that I posted too. But I think it's good to hammer it home during the actual stream itself too.
Yeah.
So, all right, why don't we take a little break and switch to that music and those images that we've been describing for the last few minutes. I'll put it up now and let it roll. All right. That was great.
That was sick.
Yeah. I just re-listening to it. Like, I should have mixed it better, but yeah.
I know.
Oh.
I was looking at some of my stuff too. I was like, oh, like, also I lied. I only picked one photo that Dorothy gave me. I thought I put in another one, but I guess not.
Yeah, but I
was
really like the
thinking
one
whole
that's...
set was all from Dorothy.
Nah, there was this one, but like I really like the one when you had like the sigil of 663 on this computer. That was really awesome.
Yep. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about with the Easter egg thing. Like,
Yeah, I really
zooming
like
in,
that.
you
I
can
was
really
like,
see that.
huh, what?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the. I think the two were side by side, where it was almost reminded me of like vaporwave imagery. There was so much packed into one space that, as the screen changed whether it was up or down, there was just so much more to look at.
Yeah, and some of my pieces are like that, and then some of them are more minimalistic too. It just kind of depends on like what I'm feeling. I don't plan out my pieces before I make them. I don't know about you, Dorothy, like when you're mixing,
Same.
but like I just kind of do it I can feel it in my body.
Exactly.
Like as I'm making it, I'll be going through the apps and I'll like be shifting through filters or like what like different layers and stuff like that. And then I'll like feel like this like kind of buzziness in my body and be like, yes, this is it. And then it's like I'll just kind of build off of that. And then I feel like kind of this like sense of like overall satisfaction when I'm done. And I'm like, yes, this is complete.
Yeah, I usually don't feel like a lot of satisfaction from my work, but other than that, it's the same. Like it feels like it writes itself in a way. Like I'm just a vessel for something to be created.
That's really interesting. So even the way that both of you create your art comes from chaos in a certain
Definitely.
way. Well, speaking of chaos, let's talk more about that and how it relates to the subject of the show. Are we living in the Matrix? Which can be interpreted in many ways.
Right.
Dorothy, what are your thoughts on that? Would you like to
Yeah.
start by sharing some of your own ideas?
I have, yeah, I think it's I find it very hard to describe how I think about it, but I think it's like a yes and no question answer at the same time, because I don't really think that we are living in like a computer simulation, you know, as in the Matrix movies. But I do think that we have a certain reality that we believe in, like the track that was playing was called consensus reality, and that concept is basic that we all believe that some things are real and other things are not. And in that sense, that is kind of a simulation of, you know, what we interpret as reality and what we choose to close out of our consciousness, or like just not ready to see it or whatever. And at the same time, I think everybody does have their own universe, which is sort of like a matrix or like a reality. And then all of these things interact. So like I don't have like an actual answer, but I think it's quite interesting how you know, when these personal realities interact, it can cause like very very interesting like outcomes, or just, you know, for some people some things are like quite basic topics, and for other people those are taboos, and that's already like almost like saying that we are living in a different world, sort of. But yeah, it's, I mean, at the same time it could be a simulation basically, and just running very buggy. I don't know. If it's a simulation, it's done really bad, and like I would like to, you know, I have some issues with it.
Right, you want to make a complaint to the higher ups.
Yeah, exactly. Like just fix the fucking box, man. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, like I think it really does have to do a lot with what people are willing to accept as reality, and then that can how should I say it can make like, you know, some people just really don't believe in certain things, and then that is not going to work for them. But other people do believe in that, and in their reality that is something, and as Max described, like it's just gonna work because, you know, you just do it. So I don't know how that really relates to like being in a matrix, but it's definitely more than I mean, I'm a trans person, so like for me, my body is not myself. It's kind of like a vessel, and I think more of myself as a soul. And so I think it's more like souls are interacting through physical means, if that makes sense. So in a way, that is kind of a matrix, actually. But I don't really think that someone is like running a computer with all of this and just watching us and laughing now that we are talking about it and stuff. But I mean, it can be, but I don't really think that is the situation.
That's a great answer. There's no one answer and there's no wrong answer.
Definitely.
It's a loaded question to even ask in the first place, but it gets the
Yeah.
ideas flowing and it opens up more questions.
Yeah, like I mean, I have a lot of questions about reality myself. So like, why, how, like the other day, I just got like this kind of test from the universe that uh, I have some PTSD, and like I just like woke up and had like one of my biggest triggers come up, and I could have reacted in a way of avoiding it or just dealing with it. And as Dune says, not the other way around, just fear is the mind killer, so you must not fear. And then I chose that path, and I just felt incredibly powerful afterwards. So I think there's definitely something more than just, the flesh and everything. There is definitely more to it. But how it is and what it is actually, if it's like a computer or if it's uh, souls or whatever you want to call it, I don't know.
Well, that's just one interpretation. Some people
Yeah,
think that it's a computer simulation. Some people see reality as more of a sort of dream. Um, People have
yeah.
a whole set of other perspectives on what it is. Madhouse, would you have any of your own perspectives to share and how that relates to chaos?
I kind of want to piggyback off of Dorothy a little bit and think and like kind of expand on that because like I think we all kind of have our own individual matrices, that we're in. Like we all have like these forms of self-confinement that we're existing in. And one of the things that I like to do is like figure out like how I'm creating my own sort of like how I'm stifling myself, how I'm blue pilling myself, I guess, if you want to use like matrix terms, and like how do I break out of that? And then when I do that, like when I paradigm shift like that, it ripples outward and can create shifts in other people as well, especially if like you share your experiences, which like I do like
Yeah, I
pretty
second that.
openly. I'm a super open book. Like I'll just be like, yo, this crazy thing like happened to me like when I was in meditation, and like, bro, like I made these connections, and like people will be like, oh, I'm in a similar experience. I'm having like my experience parallels yours. So it's like there's obviously something that like kind of connects us, like some sort of like energetic current. And
Definitely.
what's that? Oh, you
I
said
just
definitely.
said definitely. Yeah, I'm just agreeing.
Yeah, so I think that there's definitely like this like energetic current that kind of connects all of us that we can sometimes like sync up with each other on. And and then you have like those experiences like deja vu, like what the hell is deja vu, or like what is it that like why is it that I've had dreams about places that I've never been to, and then months later I like show up at them, and I'm like, I saw this place like in my dreams. Or like why is it that sometimes you can like think about somebody really intensely and they contact you?
Mm.
Like there's obviously something, I think there's obviously like something more, and I can't really identify like what that is. And like you're not, I mean, asking two like coyotes is what they're called, like
Oh, really?
to
I
give
didn't know
you a
that.
straight
That's
answer on what their beliefs are, when like our beliefs literally like are changing based on like the
Yeah,
circumstances we're in. It's like you're not going to get a straight answer, but it's like, from the culminations of my experiences, like I can say like there's something else happening. um and I can't really identify what it is. I don't know if it stems from like, when you look at like quantum physics and like string theory stuff, like I don't know, like I think that there's probably a root there, and I also think that there's a root in like just our sheer emotional energy, because like as humans, like we have a lot of like energy within our bodies and within our minds that can create like shifts outward. So I don't know. Like I do think we're living in a matrix, but like Dorothy said, I don't know that it's necessarily like a computer simulation type of matrix. I think it's something else, and I can't really pinpoint what it is, but I want to exploit it.
Yeah, it's hard to say what. I think a lot of people have some sort of sense that reality is not exactly what it appears to be at all times, and sometimes things like simulation theory they're maybe not necessarily describing what it actually is, but it's just one of the better analogies that we currently have to explain it. If you ask someone a few hundred years ago, what do you think the universe is and how does it operate? Without computers as the most advanced example of technology at the time, maybe people would say that they see the universe as a giant mechanical clock, because for them that was the most advanced example of technology and the most complex system that they could imagine. Even before that, maybe people would say the universe was a sort of dream, because what is a dream if not some sort of simulated reality? So
Right.
these are all useful comparisons, but they're not necessarily actually describing what the universe is. It's we might never know, but it's interesting to think about.
One of my clients at my salon is actually a professor of physics, and I love talking to him because he did his dissertation on chaos theory. So it's like we have really interesting conversations, and he straight up said one time, like, our reality is far stranger than anything that you will read in a science fiction book or watch on a movie. Like, it's
Hmm.
weird. And like, it's even interesting to know just how, like, when you look at chaos theory, how like just the term chaos itself has such a like negative connotation, but like I don't think people understand that like chaos is actually order. Chaos, like the term chaos is derived from like the Greek word chaos, which is actually it's like a concept of like what was before the Big Bang. So
Hmm.
within it was literally everything that like everything that existed, like every event, like all of us, like all of that existed within like chaos. And so when you like kind of follow that along to like modern chaos theory, how things that are somewhat random take on structure, like how bubbles will assimilate to hexagonal shapes and groups, or how I forget the name of the theory. I meant to look this up, but it's like groups of numbers, like when you're doing like censuses or like survey results, poll results, they'll all follow this pattern. And I forget the name of the pattern, but they actually use it to like track fraud and stuff like that, because it's like, even though like, you know, any group of numbers that you could think of would be like somewhat disconnected to each other, they all follow this pattern. So things that are completely unrelated to one another, such as like how many people ordered the Crunchwrap Supreme from Taco Bell over, the beefy 5-layer, like those numbers will follow this pattern
Hmm.
versus like, the poll results from like, recent elections.
Hmm.
So it's kind of interesting, like how much randomness there is in our world, but yet it follows these like structures that we can catalog and like, monitor.
Yeah, that's very interesting that there might be some sort of underlying um mathematical patterns for how the universe behaves beyond just the normal laws of physics that we know. And I'm very interested to hear more about the perspective shared by your professor friend, who is both a professor of physics and interested in chaos magic? That seems like a very interesting combination.
No, he doesn't practice chaos magic. He did his dissertation on chaos theory, which is a subsect of like string theory and like quantum physics.
Ah, gotcha. I misunderstood.
Yeah. So there's chaos magic and then there's actual chaos science. I'm interested in both. So like
Chaos in general.
Chaos is just like, yes, I love chaos in all forms. But I always have a million questions for him. He's also a Buddhist, which is really neat.
That's what, for some reason that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of ancient philosophies, in some ways, are like underlying very, very modern ideas about what the universe is or isn't. The idea that all things are connected somehow, or that reality isn't exactly what it appears to be, or that all of us are a sort of various incarnations of some singular larger entity. Those are ideas that are not necessarily new, but they are being explored and expressed more uh, through new techniques in science and technology, which is so intriguing.
Yeah, I personally really like this idea that we are all like fragments of the same soul or something, and we are trying to just fix that to get back together in a way, which is not gonna happen like that, But it's just that something that was one, that was chaos, that just blew up, and now we are all experiencing our own realities. And then I would also like to add something that Max introduced me to, is that chaos provides, is that in chaos there is, yeah, they are telling
I have a tattoo on my arm.
yeah,
I say
that
it a lot.
in chaos there is possibility. In all of this random stuff, there is so much possibility that we don't think about. Like, I think it's just a really interesting concept that, it's sort of that in a very, very simplified way, you can say that any day you wake up, anything can happen because you have no idea what you're gonna do. Maybe something is gonna trigger something that's gonna trigger something, then you're gonna do something else, and then blah blah blah. But yeah, I think it's very much tied to chaos, that there is just, that there's a lot of possibilities. I can't really put it in a better way, but yeah, there's always something that can happen that you would not expect, that will, and that might change the whole outcome of what you thought your day was gonna be, or something like that.
I also think there's a choice element too that
Definitely,
we can't
yeah.
neglect, because I think when you make a choice to perceive things differently, or commit yourself to looking at things differently or having a unique perspective, you see opportunities in ways that you may not have before. And even just something I've been doing recently is just waking up and deciding with vigor, I'm gonna have a good day today. And nobody can do
That's
anything
cool.
about it. I'm having a good day today. Fuck everybody, it's gonna be a good day. And I have good days when I do that, when I just wake up and make that choice. And that's part of chaos magic too, is just kind of you know exerting your will over your experience instead of allowing your experience to kind of do the opposite, I guess. I think a lot of people just kind of live their lives and think this is the direction I'm being pulled in, and not realize they might be unhappy, or they don't like that, and you can make a choice to not live like that. And when you make those declarations of this is how I want my life to look like, this is how I want to feel, this is what I want, and you pursue it, and you make a choice to see those opportunities when they come up, that's red pilling yourself right there. That's breaking your matrix.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot.
Well, I wish we could talk more about this, but we're coming up on just over an hour, and I think that's probably a good place to end the conversation. Although I would love to talk
right?
more another time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we
I'm
should.
always down.
Yeah, same.
I could talk
Bef-
about this stuff like all night.
oh yeah, I could listen to you talk about it all night. So before we go, can each of you share where people can find you online? Let them know like where you're at.
You wanna go first?
Yeah, I'm just on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram. I post a lot of content there. Not only do I post like my art, but like to my stories, I often share like texts from books I'm reading about chaos magic or like other things that I'm interested in. So, um, and oftentimes with my art, I'll share like a little blurb about, my thoughts on chaos magic stuff. So, yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Macaroni and Chaos.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's the same for me. Mainly, I post on Instagram at Dorothy Chaos, but as I'm a musician, uh, my new project, Meet Me After Sundown, is at the moment only on Bandcamp, and my previous project, Dorothy Waste, is on Bandcamp and Spotify, iTunes, you name it. And I also have a Facebook page, but I don't pay anything for the ads, so that doesn't really, make any sense to have, but whatever. But yeah, I guess Instagram is the main source where you can, get what I'm doing at the moment.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure to both of you.
Yeah, thank you. That was cool.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
That
cool.
was Dorothy Chaos. This was Madhouse. I'm Doug Rizzio. And to close, I'm going to ask the same question I always ask at the end of the show. Are we living in the Matrix? Is the universe just one big simulation? What if everything we thought we knew was nothing more than virtual reality? Ponder the answers to these questions and more next time on Glitch in the Matrix. Bye.